Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going on a wild ride, a journey through the evolution of marketing. We're going to find out how we went from simple posters and TV ads to a system that's so smart it can feel, well, a little spooky. Let's get right into it. So, you know that feeling, right? You're talking with a friend about, say, needing a new coffee maker. And then, bam! All of a sudden, your social media is just a waterfall of ads for coffee makers. Is it just a crazy coincidence? Is your phone actually listening in? Well, the real answer is a little more complicated and honestly, a lot more interesting. It all traces back to a massive transformation in the world of marketing. You see, the story of how we got here really kicks off back in the 1950s, when for the first time the motto became, "The customer is king." Fast forward to the 90s, and it wasn't just about the customer, it was about building a real relationship. Then the 2000s hit, and the internet just turned the whole game upside down. And that leads us to today, where we're all living inside this incredibly powerful, data-driven personalization engine. So let's break down how we got here step by step. Okay, so the first big shakeup happened when our economy started shifting. It became less about physical stuff you can hold in your hand and way more about services and experiences. And this created a brand new puzzle for marketers. I mean, how do you sell something that you can't even see or touch? Think about it this way. A good, like a can of soup, is tangible. You can touch it, you can put it in your pantry, it's consistent, every can is pretty much the same. But a service, like getting financial advice or going to a concert, that's intangible. It's perishable, you can't save it for later, and it's super variable. A great concert one night might be just okay the next, all depending on the people involved. So to solve this puzzle, marketers had to upgrade their whole toolkit. They started with the classic 4 Ps you might have heard of: product, price, place, and promotion. But for services, that wasn't enough, so they added 3 more. They added people, because in a service, the person is the product. They added process, how smoothly that service is delivered to you. And finally, they added physical evidence, all those little tangible clues that tell you this is quality, like how clean a hotel lobby is or the fancy paper a consultant's report is printed on. And this change in tools was really about a much deeper change in thinking. The goal wasn't just about making a one-time sale anymore. The game shifted to relationship marketing. The idea was to build so much trust and value that you'd keep a customer for life. It was about retention, not just attraction, because everyone realized a loyal customer is worth so much more over the long haul. So, just as marketers were getting the hang of this whole services thing, a tidal wave hit. And that wave was the internet. This wasn't just some new channel for ads, it was a complete and total rewrite of the rulebook. It was a digital gold rush, and the opportunities were just massive. Just to get your head around the scale of this thing, think about this number. Every single day, we collectively make about 3.5 billion searches on Google. Every single one of those searches is a person, somewhere, expressing a need, a curiosity, a desire. For marketers, this was like being handed a crystal ball. This explosion of search gave birth to a whole new art form: search engine optimization, or SEO. Now, this isn't about paying for ads. It's the craft of figuring out what people are searching for and then making your website the best, most relevant answer to their question. If you do it right, you show up at the top for free. At the exact same time, you had platforms like Facebook and Instagram becoming these huge digital town squares. Marketers suddenly realized they didn't have to shout from a billboard anymore. They could jump right into the conversation, engage with people directly, and build communities around their brands, right where people were already hanging out. But what if you don't have time to build that audience organically? What if you want to be at the top right now? Well, that's where pay-per-click, or PPC advertising, comes in. It's the fast track. This model lets you literally buy a spot at the top of a Google search or in someone's social feed. And the logic is pretty simple. You only pay when someone is actually interested enough to click your ad. Okay, so armed with these powerful new digital tools, marketers started getting really adventurous. The story gets bigger. They began looking past their usual customers and started expanding their maps into completely new territories, not just online, but into new places on the globe and even into whole new systems of belief. For a perfect example, let's look at India. As the big city markets got more and more crowded, companies looked at the data and had a light bulb moment. Over 65% of the entire country's population lived in rural areas. This was a gigantic, almost completely untapped market. But reaching them was going to require a totally different playbook. And so they created one. It's called the 4A's framework. First, acceptability. This meant changing the product to fit local needs, like LG making a TV with menus in regional languages. Then, affordability, which led to genius ideas like selling shampoo in tiny, cheap sachets. For awareness, they got creative, using things like puppet shows and local fairs or melas. And finally, accessibility. They had to totally rethink their logistics just to get products to these remote villages. Meanwhile, a different kind of map was being drawn, based on values. As more and more people and governments started to worry about the environment, a whole new field popped up: green marketing. This was way more than a gimmick. It was a real response to a growing demand for businesses to be more sustainable and responsible. So this meant giving the classic 4Ps a green makeover. The product had to change, maybe using recycled materials or way less packaging. Price became a tricky balancing act, trying to reflect the extra value without scaring customers away. Placed was about optimizing your shipping to slash that carbon footprint. And promotion? Well, that became all about clearly telling customers about all the good stuff you were doing for the planet. And all of that brings us right here to today. We're at the hyper-personal frontier. This is where technology is making marketing more direct, more instant, and more tailored to you as one single person than ever before in history. So, let's finally crack the code on that spooky ad. The real culprit is something called online behavioral advertising, or OBA. No, your phone isn't literally recording your conversations. It's actually way smarter than that. As you just go about your day online, searching on Google, clicking on links, adding things to your cart, your digital breadcrumbs are being collected and analyzed. All that data is then used to build a profile and predict what you might be interested in. And then it serves you that perfectly timed ad. But it's not all just happening on screens. Marketers are going after our physical senses too. It's called sensory marketing. Think about that amazing smell of fresh-baked cookies they pump into the air at a mall, or that very specific, solid thump a luxury car door makes when you close it, or the high-energy music in a clothing store. It's all designed to create an emotional vibe. Technology has also blown up the old business model with something called direct-to-consumer, or D2C. Brands like Warby Parker or Allbirds figured, hey, why do we need a middleman? By selling straight to you online, they get to control the entire customer experience, they get all that valuable data, and they can build a much more direct relationship. And finally, this tech has even turned us into marketers. That's the rise of consumer to consumer, or C2C. Platforms like eBay, Etsy, or OLX don't actually sell anything themselves. They just filled the playground for the rest of us to buy and sell from each other, creating these massive economies where we are all the retailers. Whew. Okay, so after that whirlwind tour through decades of change, what does this whole marketing evolution really mean for you and me today? Let's tie it all together. When you really boil it all down, the entire story is a shift from a one-way street to a two-way conversation. Marketing used to be a simple make and sell philosophy. A company would just shout its message out to the world. Now it's a super complex, deeply personal, data-driven dialogue that's happening between brands and each and every one of us, all day, every day. And that leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. We all kind of like it when a service knows what we want. It's helpful, it's convenient. But as this technology gets smarter and more personal, where do we draw the line? Where does helpful cross over and become invasive? That's a conversation that affects all of us. And it's a conversation that is really only just getting started.